It was a cold, quiet night in a small, poor village. The streets were empty and dark. Most people were asleep in their small homes. But in one dark corner of the village, something terrible was happening. A young girl named Zara was walking home alone. Zara was only 12 years old. She lived with her mother in a small hut at the edge of the village. Zara was a kind and gentle girl, always helping others. But tonight, she felt afraid. She heard strange sounds behind her as she walked quickly, on the dusty road. Suddenly, a group of cruel men jumped out from behind the trees. They grabbed Zara's arms tightly. She tried to scream, but one man covered her mouth with a dirty cloth. Zara struggled hard, but they were too strong. The men dragged her toward an old abandoned house near the village. Zara's heart was pounding. She looked at the sky and prayed for help, but no one was around. The men did not want anyone to see what they were doing. They forced Zara into a dark room in the old house. It smelled of dust and mold. Zara was terrified. She did not know why they had taken her or what they planned to do. After some time, the men came back with a shovel and a sack. Zara's eyes widened with fear when she understood what was happening. They took her outside, to a small empty space, behind the house. The moon was high in the sky, but the darkness covered everything. The men tied Zara's hands and feet. Then, they forced her into a deep hole. Zara was buried alive. The cold earth covered her slowly. She could feel the weight of the soil on her back and chest. The air was thin and hard to breathe. Zara felt panic. She screamed as loud as she could, but her voice was muffled by the dirt. Inside the dark hole, Zara's mind was racing. She remembered the stories her mother told her about hope and courage. She did not want to give up. She tried to stay calm and think of a way to escape. Zara used her small hands to move the dirt near her face. The earth was heavy and cold, but she kept digging little by little. Her fingers were scratched and sore, but she did not stop. Hours passed, but no one came. To help, Zara's strength was slowly going away. She felt weak and scared, but deep inside, a small flame of hope was still burning. Meanwhile, far from the old house in a big and beautiful home, lived a rich man named Faizan. Faizan was a kind and generous man. He had many businesses and helped many people in the village. Even though he was rich, he never forgot the poor people around him. That night, Faizan was sitting on his balcony looking at the dark sky. Suddenly, he heard a strange noise coming from the direction of the old house. It sounded like a faint cry for help. Faizan's heart skipped a beat. He could not ignore the sound. He stood up quickly and called his driver. "Go to the old house. Check what is happening there, but be careful," he said with a serious voice. Faizan decided to go himself. He felt that something bad was happening. The strange noise did not stop. It was soft but clear. Someone was in trouble. As Faizan's car moved closer to the old house, the cries grew louder. Faizan stepped out of the car and walked carefully toward the backyard. The ground was wet with dew and the air was cold. His eyes searched the darkness. He saw a small hole in the ground. It was partly covered with fresh dirt. Faizan's heart beat faster. He knew someone had been buried alive. "Who is there?" Faizan shouted loudly. Suddenly, a weak voice answered, "Help me, please." Faizan's eyes widened. He rushed to the hole and saw Zara's pale face barely visible under the dirt. She was alive but very weak. "Hold on, I will get help," Faizan said with determination. He ran to his car and called the emergency services. He did not wait. He started digging with his own hands, breaking the hard earth to reach Zara faster. The villagers, hearing the noise, came outside to see what was happening. They were shocked and scared. No one expected such a cruel act in their quiet village. Faizan's voice was loud and strong. "We must save her now," he said. Zara's eyes opened slowly. She saw a man with kind eyes digging her out. She tried to smile, but was too weak. "Who did this to you?" Faizan asked softly. Zara tried to speak, but her voice was barely a whisper. I don't know. Please help." Faizan kept digging. Time was running out. The night air was filled with tension and hope. Would they reach Zara in time? Would she survive this nightmare? The darkness around them seemed less scary because Faizan's presence gave Zara a new hope. The story of the poor girl buried alive was just beginning to unfold. Faizan did not stop digging. His hands were hurting and the cold earth made his fingers stiff. But he did not care. He only wanted to save the poor girl buried alive in front of him. The villagers had gathered around, watching in silence, their eyes full of fear and hope. Zara was weak and barely breathing. Faizan gently pulled her out of the hole. The fresh air touched her face and she gasped for breath. Tears rolled down her dirty cheeks. She was scared, but she felt alive. Faizan quickly lifted Zara into his arms. "Don't worry. You are safe now," he whispered softly. He looked around, hoping to see someone who could help. Luckily, one of his staff was a nurse. Faizan called her immediately and asked her to come quickly. Within minutes, the nurse arrived with a first aid kit. She checked Zara's condition carefully. Zara's hands and feet were scratched and bruised. She was cold and hungry. The nurse wrapped her in a warm blanket and gave her water to drink. Faizan held Zara's hand gently. "Who did this to you?" he asked again. Zara's eyes filled with tears. She shook her head, too afraid to speak. The villagers started talking among themselves. They were angry and scared. No one knew who could do such a cruel thing in their small village. Some said it was a crime. Others feared it was something worse. Faizan knew he had to act fast. He promised Zara and the villagers that he would find the people responsible. But first, he wanted to take Zara to a safe place. "You will stay with me until you are strong again," he said kindly. Zara looked at Faizan with hope. She felt safe for the first time in days. She nodded weakly. Faizan's car took them to his big house. It was warm and bright inside. Zara had never seen such a place before. Soft beds, clean clothes, and warm food were new to her. She was shy but hungry. Faizan's cook prepared a hot meal for her. While Zara ate slowly, Faizan called the village head. He asked for help to find out who had buried Zara alive. The village head promised to investigate immediately, but Faizan knew it would take time. The villagers were scared to speak because the criminals might be dangerous. That night, Zara slept peacefully for the first time in many nights. Faizan watched her from the door. He thought about how someone could be so cruel. He promised himself to protect Zara and bring justice. The next morning, Faizan asked Zara gently, "Do you remember anything about those men? Who were they? Why did they do this?" Zara closed her eyes and tried to remember. "I don't know," she whispered. "They were wearing masks. I couldn't see their faces." Faizan felt a cold shiver. The criminals wanted to hide their identities. It made the search harder, but Faizan was not ready to give up. He used his contacts in the village and city to find clues. Slowly, a picture began to form. Meanwhile, Zara started to feel stronger. Faizan gave her clothes and toys to play with. He wanted her to feel like a child again, not a scared girl buried alive in the dark. Days passed, and Zara's trust in Faizan grew. She told him small stories about her life, her mother, and her dreams. Faizan listened carefully, promising to help her family too. The village was no longer quiet. People talked about Zara's rescue and the rich man who saved her. Some were inspired. Others were angry about the crime. Faizan knew the road ahead was difficult. The criminals were still out there, and Zara's safety was his top priority. He decided to hire private guards to protect her. The suspense was high. Would they find the kidnappers? Would Zara's family be safe? What dark secrets were hiding behind this terrible act? The story of Zara and Faizan was just beginning, and the answers would come slowly, with danger, hope, and courage. The sun was setting as Faizan waited anxiously for the police to arrive. He knew time was running out. The kidnappers could come back any moment, and Zara's life was still in danger. Faizan checked the doors and windows of the old factory one more time. The place looked empty, but he felt a dark shadow watching him. Suddenly, headlights appeared on the road nearby. Police cars rushed toward the factory, their sirens piercing the quiet evening air. Officers jumped out and surrounded the area. Faizan quickly explained everything he had found: the footprints, the cloth, the tire marks, and most importantly, the voices of the kidnappers. The police began searching carefully. They called for backup to cover all exits. Inside the factory, the kidnappers were making plans to leave. One of them said, "We need to move Zara before the police block the roads." Zara, though weak and scared, heard the voices. She knew they might come back for her soon. Faizan stood outside, his heart pounding. He wanted to do more than just wait. He decided to follow the kidnappers if they tried to escape. As night fell, a black van slowly approached the factory. The kidnappers were ready to leave, but the police were watching. Just as the kidnappers opened the back door to get Zara inside, the police shouted, "Stop! Don't move!" The kidnappers panicked. One tried to drive away, but the police blocked the road. A tense chase began. Faizan jumped into his car and followed behind. The streets were dark and narrow. The kidnappers tried to lose the police, speeding through the village. Faizan's eyes were fixed on the van. He was scared but determined. He could not let them escape. After several minutes, the van slowed down near a river. The kidnappers got out and ran into the woods. Faizan and the police chased them. The forest was dark and every step made a loud sound on the dry leaves. Suddenly, one kidnapper tripped and fell. The police caught him quickly. He looked scared and angry. "Where is Zara?" Faizan asked loudly. The man stayed silent. Faizan felt his hope growing. They were close. Deep in the woods, Zara was tied to a tree, but she had not lost her will. She looked around, waiting for someone to find her. Faizan shouted her name and she heard it faintly. "Zara, I'm coming, hold on," he said. The search continued, and every second was precious. Faizan and the police moved carefully through the dark forest. The trees were thick, and the night made it harder to see. But Faizan did not stop. He wanted to save Zara no matter what. Suddenly, Faizan heard a weak voice. It was Zara. He followed the sound, moving fast but quietly. Finally, he saw her, small, tired, tied to a tree. "Zara, I'm here," Faizan said gently. Zara looked up, her eyes full of hope. "Please help me," she whispered. One police officer quickly untied her while Faizan held her hand to keep her calm. Zara was cold and scared, but she was safe now. Faizan wrapped his jacket around her and said, "You're safe. We will take care of you." The police started to look for the other kidnappers. They wanted to make sure Zara would never be in danger again. As they walked back to the village, Zara held Faizan's hand tightly. She felt like a miracle had happened, but Faizan's mind was still heavy. Who were these people? Why did they want to hurt Zara? Back in the village, the news spread quickly. Everyone was happy to hear Zara was found, but Faizan knew this was just the beginning. The next morning, Faizan sat with Zara at the breakfast table. She looked tired but safe now. Faizan wanted to help her remember what happened. He asked gently, "Zara, can you tell me more about your mother? Why did you run away?" Zara's eyes filled with tears. "My mother is very sick. We have no money for medicine. People in the village don't help us. Some powerful people want to keep us silent." Faizan's face grew serious. "Powerful people? What do you mean?" Zara looked around nervously. "They are rich and dangerous. They don't want anyone to know about my mother's illness. They want us to disappear." Faizan clenched his fists. He knew he had to protect Zara and her mother. Suddenly, the doorbell rang loudly. Faizan opened the door to see two men in dark clothes. They looked angry and threatening. One man said, "Tell Zara to stop talking, or she will disappear forever." Faizan stood tall. "You will not scare us. I will protect her." The men left, but their warning was clear. Faizan realized the fight was just beginning. He needed to find a way to keep Zara and her mother safe. Faizan knew time was running out. The men's threat was serious. He could not let Zara and her mother stay in danger. He called his trusted friend, Inspector Kamal. Kamal was smart and brave. Faizan told him everything. about Zara, the threats, and the rich men hiding the secret. Kamal promised to help. "We will find the truth and stop them," he said. Faizan then visited Zara's mother's house. The small home was old and quiet. Zara's mother, Amina, was very weak. She smiled weakly when Faizan entered. "We will save you," Faizan said gently. Kamal and Faizan planned to bring medicine and protection for Amina. They also decided to gather proof about the dangerous people trying to harm them. But danger was closer than they thought. That night, Faizan's house was watched again. Someone left a warning note. "Stop now or face the consequences." Faizan felt the weight of the fight ahead. He looked at Zara and said, "I will not give up. We will win." Zara held his hand tightly, finding hope in his promise. The next day, Faizan and Inspector Kamal went to the village to gather evidence. They talked to villagers quietly. Some were scared, but a few spoke up. They learned the truth. The rich men wanted to hide Amina's illness because it could ruin their business. They used fear to keep Zara and her mother silent. Faizan felt angry but determined. With the proof, Kamal arrested the criminals. News spread quickly. The village was shocked. Zara's mother got the medicine she needed. Slowly, she began to recover. Zara smiled for the first time in weeks. She hugged Faizan and Kamal. "Thank you," she said softly. "You saved my life." Faizan smiled back. "No one should live in fear. We will always protect you." The villagers started to stand up for what was right. Zara and her mother found peace and hope. Faizan knew this was only the beginning of a better life for them all.